Good morning, everyone. Time has come. We're going to call our council meeting to order. If you would, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now, first item on our agenda is our auditor's financial report.
So we began the year with a beginning net balance of $4,703,547. You've granted appropriations of $588,504, taking out miscellaneous expenditures to date of $14,000, leaves you available for appropriation $4,100,792. And this is for the general fund. You have requests before you today of $3,130,870. $3 million of that being the transfer from general fund to the rainy day, which we talked about in the budget hearings. 83.3% of the year complete for general fund revenue. Just a couple of items to note. So other taxes, if I looked at last year, I believe this $20,000 projected is just was budgeted too high. We were at $5,000 for '22, and so I think this $4,000 is more on target. And those are some franchise fees that we receive. State and local reimbursements is municipal election reimbursements, so should be getting another chunk of that either by the end of the year or early next year. A couple of, like, the transfer of $20,000 from the plat book into the general fund. We do that in December. And then some of the treasurer costs come in December when we do settlement. So everything else looking pretty good. 78.1% of total revenue collected, and if we disregard property taxes, which will come in December, then we're looking at 111% of projected revenue has been collected so far. Fund balance report, just had a couple of things to point out here. The only non-grant fund that was negative was tax sale fees, and again, this is something that would come in and be posted during settlement. So that should be positive by year end. Our self-insurance fund dipped below $9 million. I'd been watching that, and it had been hovering around $9 million this year. And I believe that was all I had, other than I think you have an opioid settlement appropriation on the agenda, and so I highlighted those two funds, 1237 and 1238. And I think that was all I had.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Jennifer? Hearing none, we'll move on to our treasurer's report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Account balance for October ended in $185,491,927.03 with an interest of $671,474.24. The average interest rate was 5.59. And if you turn to the third page, you'll see the adjustment for September. The bank had an issue, and they remitted the additional interest of $135,403.69. So that brought September's total to $575,251.09 for interest. Yesterday, property taxes were due, and we ended at 86% collection. However, my staff is still working on posting timely mail. So that's all I have for the treasurer's report.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
Next, we have any public comment about our agenda items before us this morning.
I'll just note that there are some letters of support that GLC submitted. Didn't print a copy for everyone, but you can pass them down.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have our Resolution 2023-15-CL, the resolution distributing our county share of innkeepers' tax funds. Doug, do you want to introduce that?
Sure. So as you know, the innkeeper's tax statute allocates 20% for the distribution as directed by the county council. The resolution you have in front of you provides for distributing some of that money for the years 2024 through 2028, a 5-year period. The draft is based on the presentation that GLC provided last month. It would be $500,000 per year, made in $125,000 quarterly payments. On top of that, as you are currently, there's some money directed to the treasurer's office for the purpose of conducting audits of the innkeepers who pay the tax. As structured in here, for the first 3 years, that amount would be $13,000, and the final 2 years, that would go up to $15,000. And then finally, there's a portion currently that goes from the innkeeper's fund to the general fund to sort of offset the administrative expenses of administering the innkeeper's tax. And for the first 3 years, that amount would be $3,500, and then the final 2 years, that would go up to $4,000. And then I guess I should mention that one of the strings attached to the GLC distribution is that they'd have to report on the project annually or as requested.
All right, do I have a motion to move forward with this resolution, or any discussion remain?
I make the motion to pass.
I'll second it.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Richard, a second from Councilwoman Dolam to approve Resolution 2023-15-CL. Discussion.
Couple of comments. I'm totally in support of this. I understand the legislation, and I appreciate the increase in the cost because, as we know, costs for audits will go up, and I know that the county is looking at those audits to make sure that the hotels that are out there, that we're collecting our money so that we can fund projects throughout the community. I would like to amend that motion to make it 3 years versus 5 years, and then after that 3-year or 2.5-year period of time, as they're putting their budget together, and we can see how much money there is, if we need to, at that point, if we need to increase or decrease it based upon the revenues that's coming in. So I would make the motion to amend our motion to make it 3 years versus the 5 years.
I would just like to add that, I feel that the Greater Lafayette Commerce team did a great job in showing what they've done to advocate and really go for this funding, and it helps them as an organization to plan out the 5 years as requested, so I would like to keep it at the 5 years.
Kathy, I just want clarification on one of the things you said. You said after, or 2.5 years to review it and based on the revenue coming in. So are you suggesting that in 2.5 years, if we see that the revenue is more than what we had expected, that we would look at increasing their allocation, or?
I think, we just monitor the revenue, and as we're going through, and as they're monitoring their budgeting and looking at what they're doing with their marketing, I mean, their costs are going to go up as we know that our costs are going to go up for audits and the cost of doing business. So then do a 3-year look at it instead of going out 5 years.
And I would second Kathy's motion. After 3 years, again, there's that 1% drop off, right, each year. per the statute, and there's a chance to and do a new resolution at that point in time. Maybe they need more money, type of thing. And so that'd be a good opportunity then to say, okay, we need 525 or 550 as a possibility instead of locking in to 500 for 5 years.
I agree with Councilwoman Vernon that 5 years is too, longevity is too long, that things can change. There could be more money there.
Okay, so I have an amendment to the resolution to make it a 3-year versus the 5 years that's currently in the resolution. Discussion on the amendment.
Could we possibly have Mr. Carson answer that, like, towards the...
Mr. Walker?
Walker.
Walker, I'm sorry. Mr. Walker, about if that has any detrimental effects on his budget.
To do 3 years versus 5 years.
Thank you, Council. Scott Walker with Greater Lafayette Commerce. We do know costs go up, and so I think the idea that we do a 3-year budget with the idea that more revenue will be coming in because of the state statute that brings more money back to the community every year, that we could look at it and determine if we need more money. I think that's, we could work with that from a budgeting standpoint.
Okay, all right. Can we do, I assume since it's a resolution, we could do the amendment as just a straight motion,
Yeah,
voice vote, and
We have a
then,
vote.
yeah,
Voice
that's
vote.
fine.
okay,
And just, I was given a heads up that a 3-year would be a possibility, so there's a form of that I've given the auditor. And just to be clear, we're doing 3 years on everything. So the 3-year version I've drafted has 3 years for the general fund and for the treasurer's audit and for GLC.
okay,
So I think that's what I heard, so.
okay,
And yes, you can do it by voice vote.
okay. So we'll vote on the amendment to the resolution. So we're all clear that we're going to 3 years versus the 5. So all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. And so then we'll go ahead and vote to approve the resolution as amended with the 3 years. And do we typically voice vote or roll call?
Voice vote on resolutions.
Voice vote, okay, that's what I just, okay. All those in favor of the resolution as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved as amended. Thank you. Next, we have our consent agenda, which includes our minutes from our October 10th meeting. Do I have any items that need to be removed for further discussion, or do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Basham, to approve the consent agenda as presented. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. First item in the additional appropriations is Superior Court 1 additional appropriation. Do you want to delay until
If we can.
Judge Williams comes? Okay. Then we've got Superior Court 2 additional appropriation.
Sure. So I make a motion to approve for Superior Court 2 General Fund Appropriation as presented.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the additional appropriation for Superior Court 2 for a total of $15,000 as presented. Discussion.
But how much money did you say?
15. There's 2 different ones there,
Yeah.
John.
Yeah.
So this is just really the increase in, that we need for the transcripts and jury expenses is what it relates to.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Next, we have Superior Court 7.
So I make a motion to approve for Superior Court 7 General Fund Appropriation for $3,200.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the general fund appropriation for Superior Court 7 in the amount of $3,200. Discussion.
There's 4 trial dates still on the docket for this year, so this money will get them through the end of the year,
Okay.
hopefully.
Hopefully.
It will. It needs to.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have CASA salary statement.
Make a motion, we approve the CASA salary statement as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, or Vernon, one of you two ladies, to approve the salary statement for part-time, regular part-time attorney and full-time attorney as presented. Discussion.
Again, as noted in your packet, this did go through the Personnel Committee and was approved.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have TEMA Safety Fund 9124 appropriation.
Make a motion, we approve TEMA Safety Fund 9124 grant appropriation in the amount presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Vernon to approve the TEMA Safety Fund 9124 grant appropriation in the amount of $6,510. Discussion. Good morning.
This was a grant from the Duke Foundation. They reached out to Smokey and said, hey, we got some extra money, why don't you apply for it? And so we did our magic.
Very good.
Wonderful.
Any questions or discussion from council?
It wasn't quite that easy.
Not quite that easy.
Order.
All right. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next we have the appropriation for the coroner.
Make a motion, we approve the appropriation for the coroner in the amount of $30,000.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Vernon to approve the additional appropriation for coroner in the amount of $30,000. Discussion. Good morning.
Good morning. This should get us through the end of the year. Based on our average autopsies that we've doing for the last 10 months, along with the increase that we've incurred of the charges of the autopsy, I think this is all we're going to need.
Okay.
Carrie, you haven't increased the autopsies the second time this year, have you?
No, not the second.
Okay.
Well, it went last year from 1,500
Yes.
to now it's 1,750.
Okay, but not since the
Not
1750
since the
increase?
1,750,
Okay,
no.
thank you.
And are we still seeing an increase in the number of autopsies that we're performing, or has that kind of leveled off?
It's kind of leveled off.
Okay, that's good.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. We now have Stormwater Donation Fund 4128.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Phase 2 Stormwater Donation Fund 4128 grant appropriation in the amount of $7,500.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Richard, a second from Councilman Basham to approve the Stormwater Donation Fund 4128 grant appropriation in the amount of $7,500. Discussion. Good morning again.
This was another Duke Foundation funding that the WOW program will receive for next year's program.
Okay. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Community Corrections Opioid Fund 8276 grant appropriation.
Make a motion, we approve the Community Corrections Opioid Fund 8276 grant appropriation as presented.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Opioid Abuse Fund 8276 grant appropriation in the amount of $407,104. Discussion.
Good
Morning.
morning. This is just the last grant year for this grant to be spent out, so we're allocating on the rest of the funds.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved.
I'll note on that one that the salary statement was approved during the budget hearings,
Okay.
so there isn't an accompanying one today.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. Next, we have Cuban Bridge 1135 appropriation.
Mr. President, I'd move that we pass 1135. We need some extra dough for all these bridges that are coming up, and Stu will explain.
I'll second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Basham, a second from Councilman Murray, to approve the additional appropriation for the Cume Bridge Fund 1135 in the amount of $200,000. Discussion.
Thank you. I think Councilman Basham pretty much hit that on the head. We have 11 bridges currently in design. The vast majority of them are federally funded, so we're getting these checks back all the time, and then we need to appropriate them back into the pool to continue paying for these designs. That's all there is to it. Like he said.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Firearms Training Fund 1156 appropriation.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Firearms Training Fund 1156 appropriation as presented.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Firearms Training Fund 1156 appropriation in the amount of $42,000. Discussion.
What this is, we're buying ammunition for the next couple of years because we've been told basically there's going to be a shortage, if none at all available, because of what's going on overseas. So we're stocking up so we don't have to do this again.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have Fund 4012 appropriation.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Canine Support Fund 4012 appropriation as presented.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Canine Support Fund 4012 appropriation in the amount of $6,276. Discussion.
I think it took longer for you to say it than it is for me to explain it. So
Probably.
we'll use these for expenses like vet bills, food, equipment, but the 505 will be used to pay the balance off that we owe on a dog that we just received a grant for. We owe $505 for that.
Okay. Questions or discussion?
Yeah, I probably should know. How many canines we got?
8.
8.
We'll have one on every shift, 2 in the jail. We had one with the drug task force that's since been brought back to go back to patrol, but we'll make an adjustment there. And
I remember the first one we got, Stanley, about 40 years ago.
we have a few more since then.
A few. Okay.
He did a demonstration at Mayflower.
I'll get that call in a minute.
He gave a demonstration at Mayflower School.
Yeah.
Yeah, great job.
They do a lot of demonstrations, and it is one area we've received, as you can tell, a lot of donations from. People will bring donations into the lobby and drop them off, or they call and they want to buy a vest for them, so that the public absolutely loves them.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have Fund 8160 appropriation.
I'll make a motion that we approve the 2024 CHIRP Fund 8160 grant appropriation as presented.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the 2024 Fund 8160 grant appropriation in the amount of $94,052. Discussion.
Yeah, this is so we can pay overtime for those officers that are working DUI project, impaired drivers. Usually it would go through Lafayette, but now we're going to do it.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
I see that Judge Williams is here before he takes a seat. Judge Williams, if you would please come forward. We have an appropriation for Superior Court 1. Do I have a motion for that one?
Yes, I make a motion to approve for Superior Court 1, general fund appropriation as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilman Murray, to approve the additional appropriation for Superior Court 1 in the total amount of $82,670. Discussion.
So
Good
it
morning.
sounds like a lot, and it sort of is, but I think I should introduce myself. Randy Williams, Judge, Tippecanoe Superior Court, and I had, actually, I think Angie thought this was going to, she was told this would be coming up next month, but that's okay. We pulled everything together here. The key is, well, in the last 5 weeks, we don't have a jury trial this week. But I think in the 5, maybe 6 weeks before that, we had 4 jury trials. And as you may remember from the summer, there was discussion. The state determined that the previous payments made to jurors of $15 to show up a day, that first day, and $40 to serve for each day, if they serve $40 each day, is now $40 and $80, maybe $30 and $80, but the key is the 80, which means that every day you're in trial, you have 13 people who are being paid $80, so it's over $1,000 just for them. And with 4 trials in the last 5, well, since October, starting October 2nd, I mean, that's what we're talking about. So if you have last week we had a 4-day trial, we went 4 days. So when you consider all the people that showed, plus all the people that were there each time, over $5,000 just in jury costs. And that doesn't include, one of the things we want to make sure they are taken care of when they're there. In fact, there's an instruction that talks about it, but we usually we'll get them lunch 1 or 2 days, have it brought in. So that's an additional amount. So, yeah, the jury trials through last week was just about 2,900, 2,800, 4,200, and 5,000. Depends on how long it takes. Those are all, those are good numbers. The pauper attorney portion of this, these are bills which we have outstanding as I stand here right now. And oftentimes what happens, if, for example, there are several defendants in a particular case, co-defendants, say for the sake of argument and discussion, the public defender's office represents one of the individuals. The public defender's office cannot represent the other defendants. We have to go outside, and oftentimes we have to retain, we have to hire other counsel, other attorneys who have a private practice, and that may be for the case itself, for the trial itself. We had recently a case, we had 3 defendants, 2 of them had outside. And then on the appeals, because if there's a conviction, almost always the defendant will file for an appeal. They have the right to appeal. They have the right to, if they cannot afford the services of an attorney, they have the right to the appointment of counsel. So I think Bruce Graham has 4 appeals for each court, but over the course of the year, if you go outside of that, you got to hire someone, you got to pay someone at the rate, which is now $100 an hour. So the numbers are the numbers. Probably, I think we have a trial next week, maybe 2 more, I'm sorry, not next week, it's Thanksgiving. Possibly 3 more, clearly 2 more before the end of the year. So again, it's just where we are. Question?
Okay, any questions for Judge Williams?
I appreciate the offer to come over. I don't get to see you all that often, which makes you all happy, I'm sure. And me too. But anyway, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Ayes approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now moving, you opposed?
Yes.
Okay, so it's still approved. Thank you, John.
I don't care.
There's
That's
one
my opinion.
unapproving. All right, we're moving back to where we left off with the Grant Fund 9301 appropriation.
I'll make a motion that we approve the opioid settlement match fund 9301. Grant appropriation is submitted.
I'll second that.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilman Murray, to approve the opioid settlement match fund 9301 grant appropriation in the amount of $297,000. Discussion.
I'll just add that this is for year one, so I'll be happy to answer any questions if you might have. If you recall, this is the state made some of their opioid settlement money available for grant funds. Tippecanoe County applied and was awarded, so this is year one of that.
Okay. Questions or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have
And this is
fund.
going, I'm sorry, is this mainly going to go to the health department?
So there's a committee that's
Oh, the
reviewing
committee
how
will
that-
be, okay,
yeah,
thank
how
you.
that money is being spent.
Okay. Fund 8950 appropriation.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ARPA-CSLFRF Fund 8950 appropriation as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilman Murray to approve the Fund 8950 appropriation in the amount of $1,500,000. Discussion.
Jennifer, can I see that request form? I forget the amounts.
1.5.
It's all just
Okay.
one line.
Okay, so actually, we need to amend this to just 1 million at this point, because that 500,000 was for the Clarks Hill in our WA, and we funded that from a different source. So this request is just for 1 million of the ARPA funds for the Wabash Greenway project. That is a ready project. So this was in the spending plan. And if you recall, the Ready Greenway project consists of two different components, one being a landing spot where the new West Lafayette Trail is coming down along 52, and under the 52 bridge, there'll be a landing spot there along River Road. And then it'll also consist of a brand-new harbor with a canoe kayak launch that's a little bit further south of that location. So very excited about both of those projects.
Is it okay to amend the motion, Councilwoman Vernon?
Yes.
And Councilman Murray?
Yep, I'll second the
Okay,
amended
so we'll,
motion.
by consent, we'll take that to be changed to 1 million. Any further discussion or questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
The original ARPA plan called for 2 million for Wabash Greenway, so that is unchanged. It's just 1 million appropriated right now.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, are we all clear on that? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have our general fund appropriation to transfer to rainy day.
Make a motion, we approve the general fund appropriation of $3 million to transfer out to rainy day.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard to approve the appropriation of $3 million to rainy day. Discussion. This is obviously all part of our discussions during budget hearings. So if there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Okay, committee reports. Unfinished business or new business? Commissioner FYI.
Good morning again. As you can see from the stuff being taken off the walls, we're about to start the project of taking down the wallpaper and repainting and putting new ceiling tiles and adding some new AV equipment to this room. So this room will be out of commission for a little while. Also, I want to report that our Concord Road project and our Yeager Road project are nearing completion. If you haven't been out to see those are amazing. The Yeager Road, obviously, is new construction, new road. So it's easy. It's an easier project because you don't have to manage traffic, but that's gone very smoothly, very quickly. So we're glad to have that. That'll be open later this month. And as well as Concord should be opened next week, right? Then, God willing, yeah. And then the animal shelter project is moving along smoothly as well. We're ahead of schedule still, knock on wood. If any of you would like to see the progress on that, let me know. We can easily get you a tour for that. Also, the Christmas department head lunch will be December 19th. That's a Tuesday, so you'll be receiving an email on that. We hope you can join us for that. Lastly, on a more serious note, I'm sure you probably saw the news that came out of the governor's office yesterday in regard to the water study that's being conducted through IEDC with their contractor Interra. The governor has made an announcement that that is going to be moved from IEDC's hands to IFA's hands, which I think is a good move. I think that needs to happen. I think we as a community are hopeful that the governor will go another step and actually pause the project until not only that study that can be completed, analyzed, and have a third-party review, but also to incorporate an environmental impact study on what will be the impact for this area and the region as a whole. That being said, we have been working with our partners, including both cities, Purdue, and GLC to work on a comprehensive strategy for not only at the federal level, with our state representatives at the local level, so we can be talking about what we need to do as far as legislation in the upcoming session in regard to the water issue, but also what can be done here at a local level as well. And what we've come up with is an ordinance that we're going to be hearing on first reading at our November 20th meeting, so next Monday. That will be an ordinance that will put a moratorium on any high volume water export from Tippecanoe County, so any water leaving Tippecanoe County of more than 5 million gallons per day. And it'll also put a moratorium on any new construction for radial collector wells, which are the types of wells that we'll be using, that they are would be using for this type of project. The moratorium will be in place for 9 months, and the reason for that is to coordinate to give us time to have legislation being considered, obviously, during the session, and then have it enacted. So this gets us past that July 1st enactment date for any legislation that comes out of the session. Our hopes are that we will have adequate legislation that will protect the resource here and protect water so that we have water for our communities within this region, but also for growth within the region. If for some reason nothing comes out of the legislature, or if something is inadequate, then we'll have to have the discussion about continuing that moratorium. So I would be happy to answer any questions you might have in regard to the ordinance. I will be sure to get you a copy of that ordinance right after this meeting.
Any questions for Commissioner Murtaugh? Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, any public comment to come before us this morning? If not, our next meeting is December 12th, and I'll take the last motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.